This week in sports, Mike Tyson returned to the ring. In an exhibition match, 54-year-old Mike Tyson squared off versus Roy Jones. The two went the full 8 rounds, but the judges called the match a draw. Nearly a week after the start of Week 12 in the NFL, there was still a game to be played. A COVID-19 outbreak on the Baltimore Ravens of more than 20 players, including 2019 NFL MVP Lamar Jackson, forced the NFL to postpone the game 3 times until it was finally played yesterday afternoon at 3:40 p.m. The Steelers came out of that madness 11-0. Elsewhere in the NFL, after being absolutely eviscerated at home versus the Houston Texans, the Lions fired general manager Bob Quinn and head coach Matt Patricia. Antonio Gibson rushed for 115 yards and 3 touchdowns in a 41-16 Washington beatdown of the Dallas Cowboys. Washington is now tied for first place with the New York Giants in the NFC East with an impressive score of 4-7. The Minnesota Vikings beat the Carolina Panthers in the closing seconds of the fourth quarter thanks to Chad Beebe, who jumped over a defender to catch the walk-off touchdown. The Patriots won thanks to Nick Folk and no thanks to Cam Newton. And the Buccaneers lost to the Chiefs in a game that saw Chiefs wide receiver Tyreek Hill collect 203 yards and 2 touchdowns in the first quarter. Finally, it is officially December, which means we are less than 1 month away from the start of the NBA and the NHL seasons. This is the Under 500 podcast. All right. Well, welcome back into the Under 500 podcast. My name is Eric. I am alongside my 2 co-hosts. Aaron, how are you?
I am doing great. I hope our listeners, that all you guys are doing well today.
And Tyler. Tyler, how you doing, boy?
What up? I'm doing really good. How's everybody?
He sounds so relaxed.
He does. He sounds
Dude,
so
I'm
relaxed.
chill tonight.
Tyler, I'm so glad you're chill, and I'm excited to talk about sports because, guys, if I'm just being honest with you, I've had a really bad week, and I did not have a good day today at work. So, just work in general the past week and today have just been not fun. Not that work is necessarily fun, but it just hasn't been like enjoyable. So, let's get in.
Work can only
Hopefully,
be fun if you work at a trampoline park. That's the only time it can be fun.
I feel like it's not.
That's fair.
Those places stink. And you got to deal with kids all the time.
That's actually
Like,
that's a really
I
good
couldn't.
point.
Like, can you imagine?
I
Like,
couldn't have
just,
picked the
yelling
worst
at
job to
kids?
think is fun.
Yeah, no, but hopefully, Eric, your employers don't listen to this episode.
Well, I think we can all
Really
have
hate your
challenging weeks at work. So, I mean, but you're right. Anyways, moving on.
Yeah,
The fight. Aaron, tell us about the fight.
yeah. Good place to start is this Mike Tyson and Roy Jones Jr. fight that went on this weekend. I'm gonna let Tyler handle the main fight, but first, I think we can't just skip over the Jake Paul and Nate Robinson fight. If you want to even call it a fight, I don't even think you can at this point. If you're listening and you don't know who either of these guys are, Jake Paul is a YouTuber, a social media influencer, if you will. Apparently, he's really popular. I don't really watch his videos.
Isn't his older brother one too? Isn't it Logan
It's his
Paul
younger
and
brother.
Jake
Logan.
Paul? Yeah.
Logan is the younger brother.
Is he?
I'm
Yeah.
pretty
I don't know.
sure.
I think
I think
let me look it up.
I
Let me
think
look it up
Logan's
because
older.
I'm famous for saying things that aren't true on this podcast. So.
Oh, we'll just scoop
What?
by that.
I'm gonna skip past that one.
But either way, he's a YouTuber, got a big social media following, and then you have not known for being athletic, although he's a big kid. He wrestled in high school and stuff like that. And then you have him going up against Nate Robinson, who 3-time NBA dunk champion, freak athlete. In high school and football, he was nationally ranked. I mean, he played in the NBA for a long time, and he's only 5'9" to win 3 dunk championships. So this guy's a freak athlete. And going into the fight, almost everyone assumed Nate Robinson would be the one to win. Like, he's a professional athlete, he's faster, he's stronger than Jake. And I don't know if you guys saw the clips or like highlights of it. Like, the fight started, and good Lord, like it was.
I didn't see anything about it other than it started and then it finished real quick.
So it only went 2 rounds, and like Nate, I don't know what he was doing for leading up to this fight. Was he not training? It looked like
It did. It
Jake
didn't look like it.
tooled on him.
He
Yeah,
knocked him down
Jake,
three, 4 times in the first round. 3 times in the first round.
3 times. It's like, I mean, and Nate would run in there, not put his gloves up, and then just boom, and like go down. And then the last hit, good night. I mean, I thought he passed away. I'm not gonna lie. I thought he was dead. I was like, oh, good Lord, he's gone.
So I didn't watch the fight, but what you're describing, I don't even know why this popped into my head, but when I was in like right before I went to college over the summer, my friends from around like town did like this boxing ring, and it was me versus this kid who actually trained for it. And like I don't know, we were being stupid and we were playing this boxing ring in the back of my friend Nick's backyard. And I didn't do anything but work at McDonald's that summer. And I said, "Yeah, I'll fight." So I get in there and I took 2 punches to the head, and I said, "No, I'm done with this."
You and Nate Robinson were on the like, dude. That first hit, Tyler, when he first got like whacked, you saw like his face, and you could see like the dread. He's like, "Oh God, what have I done?"
100%. That's exactly what happened. It was ridiculous. It was really, really poor performance.
He didn't cover up. He just, I mean, I get he's shorter, so he doesn't have the reach. Like I think Jake Paul's like 6'1", and he's 5'9". So it is like a tactic if you're the shorter boxer with the shorter reach to try to close distance, which is all great and stuff, but you still have to protect your face. And like he just wouldn't. And that last punch, I mean, his soul left his body. Like Nate might finally be waking up now. I'm not sure. Like it was just that bad. But the funniest part, the funniest part though were the comments online. Like,
he got roasted.
Dude, I saw the memes came to life. That's the only reason I know this happened is like you log into Facebook or Instagram or whatever and just memes.
You gotta love the 21st
when those
century
moments
for
happen.
that kind of stuff. 21st century, the internet continues to stay undefeated.
Oh, dude, it wins all the time. Like I saw some people posted stuff on Twitter where it's like Nate Robinson's uninvited from the cookout.
Oh my God.
Like the hood has rejected Nate Robinson. Like you're not. I was just like, oh my goodness.
That's rough.
It was appalling. Like it looked like Jake had a lot more training, which turns out he's been training for over a year. And I think Nate Robinson needs to fire whoever was training him. But I found it very, very humorous. Tyler, you can probably talk more about the actual fight.
Well, the Tyson fight. So it's an exhibition match, 8 rounds of 2 minutes. Roy Jones Jr. was the fighter of the 90s. He was the big name in the 90s, and Tyson was the big name of the 80s. Mike Tyson, personally, if you ask me, if you put Mike Tyson in his prime and Roy Jones Jr. in his prime, Mike Tyson's still going to beat him.
Oh, yeah, no, easily.
But
did you guys see the comments afterwards?
No.
Did you see the draw happened and Roy Jones? He goes, yeah, I wear drawers. I don't
wear draws.
fight in draws. That's what it was. I wear draws. I don't fight in them or whatever. I don't fight for him. I forget exactly what he said.
The decision was bogus. Mike Tyson walks in and starts. I mean, he doesn't start unloading on it. I don't think Mike Tyson wanted to knock him out like first round or anything. I don't think his plan was to go in there and just give him, the 1-2 combination that he's famous for, one in the ribs and then, or one in a jab in the stuff, whatever he does. He does this cool combination that he does because of his power. But yeah, it went all 8 rounds. Both of them looked in all 54 years of life that they had. They were huffing and puffing the whole time. Mike Tyson definitely looked a little bit more calm. But
I know they were both thankful that neither one of them were hurt too. Like they both said this was a good fight. We didn't actually injure ourselves.
They set
the
up
way
rules.
50-year-olds would, say.
Right.
Yeah, they set up rules at the beginning of the fight. Like initially when it first came out, they said there were no knockouts allowed, but then they changed it and said no, if someone gets knocked out, but the idea was you're not trying to go for the knockout.
They were actually going to wear helmets. That was one of the original plans.
Tyson was like, nah, he's like, I ain't no punk. Like,
but anyway, so
he
Mike
smoked a joint before the fight.
Well, yeah,
too.
I was just about to get into that. So it all comes out. So Mike Tyson's looking really calm in the ring, and it turns out it's because he was baked. And somebody asks him, he's like, I can't stop smoking. And if he can perform at that level while high,
Yeah.
Never mind. We'll leave it there.
I will.
So,
I will say
Well, you leave that
he looked like he had
statement
power.
unfinished, Tyler.
I don't know. He still looked like he has a lot of power in him, though. Like
Yeah.
some of those shots, I was like,
Well, I mean, just
oof.
when the whole fight was even announced, or when that first teaser video that Mike Tyson was coming back to the ring, I mean, the guy can still throw a punch at 54. My goodness. So
I
yeah,
wouldn't fight him.
No way. No. So the fight ends in a draw, which, come on, let's be real. Mike landed way more punches. But yeah,
Is that how that works? I'm ignorant to boxing and fighting and MMA or whatever.
M&A.
M&M's, whatever it was. MMA is what I meant to say. So is it, if it's not a clear knockout, is it the win is based off of punches landed versus punches taken?
It's
Is it like a
something like
theory
that.
or
There-
some
there's
sort of
more to
algorithm?
You get points per round. So it's scored out of 10. So like a close round, like I noticed the scorecard for their fight, it was like 10 or 9 either way. So 10 is like you win the round, and then if it's close, the other opponent will get a 9. If it's like a beatdown, it'll be like a 6 or something like. But it's usually judged by like how many strikes they've connected on, and they also have a scale for power hits.
So
as well.
so if it's close at the end or it's effectively a tie, then it has to become it's not a clear cut decision. The judges have to get together and go, who is overall the better fighter.
Right. And then in this case, it was, I mean, this also was more a fight for charity anyways.
Yeah.
Like that was the main thing. So no one was like, yeah, we'll just call it a draw. Like that's probably what happened. UFC and MMA, it's a little different.
Yeah,
how
they
score
score takedowns and
and octagon control, all that.
Yeah.
But we don't need to get into all that stuff right now.
Dang, this is a way more intricate sport than I thought, which is
Yeah,
what I
actually
learned
know a
about
bit
hockey
about
too. So I
Yeah.
might have to get into this. I just have I was never into it as a kid. I have a hard time watching a sporting event at $50, to watch it on my TV. So
That's why
just like
you just get friends that'll pay it.
that's
or
what I
just
need to
bump on
do.
'em.
We all need to get together and watch this fight or something
or
like
you
that.
find those sites that are run by degenerate gamblers.
Can't children are listening.
Okay,
Tyler.
so on to football.
Yes, let's go to football.
I have a bone to pick with the two of you.
Oh, here we go.
So I got absolutely killed in fantasy this week to a 1-10 team, and I'm a
You
6-5
lost to
team.
Adam's team?
I lost to Adam's team. Part of it was personal annoyances that I don't know. Maybe somebody knows how to do this, but I don't know how to turn stupid like notifications on in the Yahoo Sports app, and I've checked, and my notifications are on. But I had a starter in the running back position that was out, and I was stupid busy on Sunday, and I never noticed it because it was going to be a game time decision, and I never got a notification. Before I know it, it's 1:04 and it's already done, or 1:05, whenever the game was. But the other thing was, so I have Tom Brady as a quarterback, and I picked up Derek Carr a few weeks ago because his schedule was going to be light. He is accurate. I've had him in years past and I didn't mind him. But here's the big thing is two things. One, I didn't like how Brady was playing trick or treat. And I thought that Derek Carr had a favorable matchup against the Falcons. And two, two of my friends had pretty well convinced me that the Raiders were the sleeper team that we needed to buy in on. Did either one of you know the box score that was that Raiders Falcons game?
42-6.
43-6.
43-6 Falcons over Raiders. How many points did Derek Carr get me? 0.
0.
He got me 0. Absolutely none. Goose egg, none. 0, nada, zip, 0.
As
So,
Kevin Malone would say, that's Dallas.
So are the Raiders still your sleeper team? Because they got eviscerated by a Falcons team that sucks. Absolutely, undeniably sucks.
So I still think
Oh,
the
and by the
Raiders
way,
are a
my
good
sleeper
team.
team, the Titans, beat the Colts like 45-21. Just
So,
so you
I
know.
still think the Raiders are a good team. I think it was a trap game. But after this last week, I believe more in the Titans.
Yeah.
than I do.
Now, someone told me that the Colts have a top 5 defense, which might be actually true. the Titans still beat them 41-21. So if they have a really good defense, what does that communicate about Mike Vrabel and the Tennessee Titans?
Yeah. No, so after this week, I still think the Raiders are a good team, but I think the Titans are more legitimate. So I will recant that part.
I will.
I don't
too.
think the Raiders suck, but I'll give you that the Titans are more, and maybe even the Browns at this point, because they won too.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, Browns did win, didn't they? What a
Dude.
crazy world we live in.
22,
Nick
I
Chubb's-
man.
And
He's a
and
top
in that regard, well, we'll get to this later, so I'll hold that. But
all right,
carry
well,
on.
we don't have to go on that. Well, the other big thing that happened, this is all over the place, and it's kind of thrown a wrench into the season. Is I think you mentioned this in the This Is Sports that COVID has ransacked the NFL.
Bad.
Yeah.
Several teams. I mean, we saw the debacle with Denver. I mean, they lost 3 of their quarterbacks, had to play with a practice squad wide receiver. Then you had the Steelers Ravens game, which got postponed 3 times, and now because of that, they have to postpone some of these Sunday games to Tuesday. And now they're talking about, well, are we going to shorten the season? Like, what's going on? So, what is it like? What is the solution here? Because I've been hearing that they might add another week for makeup games. They may shorten the season. I don't know. Like, I don't know what do you think there even is a solution, or is this just something that we have to ride out? Like they're just gonna get infected with it.
I'll say I think you just gotta let happen. Let the things happen that are gonna happen. If we want to get into the teams that had the biggest problems this week, it was the Ravens and the Broncos. Now their situations, and I've seen this being thrown around a lot on social media. Is why was the Ravens game postponed, but the Broncos game wasn't?
Right.
And it's a
big- Yeah, I
difference.
saw that.
And it's a difference of the Ravens had a coronavirus outbreak. A lot of their quarterback got it. Practice people got it. Staff got it.
Oh, I think I said 20 players. It might have been over 20 players.
I think that was players and staff combined.
Okay.
Yeah. It was like 20 total.
And then those are people that got it. Now you have the Broncos who have the worst luck ever. Apparently, had their 3 quarterbacks exposed to it. But
So that means
didn't
someone
test
in like the
positive for
quarterback
it.
room had it.
Right, and they didn't test positive for it. And a report that came out was that all 3 of them broke protocol.
They have video. Yeah, I guess they have video evidence.
So they broke protocol. So the difference is of an outbreak and neglect. I think the Broncos were punished by not being able to have any quarterback on the field. And the difference between the 2 teams is that there was an outbreak with the Ravens, and that's a legitimate excuse. Breaking protocol, that was your fault.
So I have 2.
Oh, sorry. You can go, Eric.
So my 2 points are one, I just personally, I can't stand that we're talking about things like, well, they broke protocol and we have them on video and they, like just I get that it's important, and I get that it's important. I socially distance and wear a mask all day, and like I'm I'm unapologetic about that, but I do think it's important to like, follow the procedures. I have a 15-month-old son. I would like to make sure that he stays healthy. So personally, I do that. And I think it's important that people follow that. Just on a personal note, though, I just hate that this is the talking point is we have on video that you weren't following your corona procedure. Like that just bothers me. Secondly, I think the only solution that they can possibly implement is, and I heard about this as a viable solution, especially for the playoffs, is basically like a mini bubble where the players have to go into quarantine at like an approved hotel by their stadiums, and the only time they travel is to the facilities or to the bus to get on the company plane or a private plane, and then subsequently travel to another specifically designated hotel in another city and quarantine there before they travel to those facilities and play. So effectively like bubbling out the NFL players. I can't see any other solution. The only other solution is you just let it ride. And I think at this point we're 12 weeks in. It's either that or let it ride.
Well, what do you think is the biggest downfall of doing a playoff bubble, an actual bubble?
So I don't know if there's enough room. Like
But
finding a place where there's enough football
ever,
stadiums.
Well, do you ever in the playoffs? Do you ever have 2 games going on at once?
But practicing.
Oh,
Yeah, it's well
Yeah, it's the practicing
hey,
aspect of that.
hey, everybody! NFL teams practice.
and just
Take
like
note.
NFL teams are just so much bigger than NBA teams. Like an NBA roster is
Sure,
15
yeah.
people. You have the NFL roster is 53.
Yeah.
And especially now the playoffs have been expanded. So now it's 7 teams each conference instead of 6. And now you have 14 teams of 53-man rosters, not counting coaches. That's a lot of people you have to
Yeah.
house.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
And it's
That's
it's not compact. The only sport that had that many people that have done it successfully in the COVID era, and I know some people won't call it a sport, but like NASCAR did it, but they basically said, only the people that relate to the car, like all the engineers and all that go into like the mechanics and the geometry of the car, they had to stay home and do everything remotely. And then because everything was compact and they could isolate people to garages, that's the only way they got 40 cars or however many cars they got out there with a crew chief, spotters, the driver, and then the crew. Like there's usually 10 people per car. So you had 400 people there, but obviously practicing was way more compact. You do it in football, those same number of people, 53 people practicing and all that, like
that's a good
you'd have to
point,
have
yeah.
like the state of Rhode Island,
Yeah, so
like as far as
it's
land goes.
It's not very practical to do
No,
probably
it'd be
not
very, very
possible
tough.
to do a bubble.
I can't imagine it would be, no.
So what do you guys think? Say this keeps happening. We keep seeing these out and scheduling eventually they can't just keep pulling the scheduling crap out of their butt. I mean, because if this escalates more and more, what do you think there is a chance that the season could cancel? I know Goodell was on today and he said, no, we can ride it out.
Nope.
But if it gets worse, do you think they're just going to keep going through with
Let
this?
it ride. They're gonna they have a couple weeks play to postpone that Super Bowl. They have a couple, they can ditch a couple weeks in there. They could play around with some things. They are bent on making their revenue this year. They're 12 weeks in and they are gonna let it ride.
Yeah. All right. I agree. One, the NFL makes just way too much money. Like they're not shutting down for anything. Not when you're making
Yeah.
over $9 billion per year. They're like, no, screw that. We're gonna keep going.
Yeah, I
Well,
don't
we
think
just hope the rest of the teams and the players stay safe and that they figure out the best way to do this.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
no, yeah, I don't know. We'll see
I
how
don't
it
think
goes.
it's happening.
Yeah, I don't see them postponing anything or canceling anything.
I mean, I honestly hope they don't. I think, but the other part of me, I really don't want to see a Super Bowl with, one of the quarterbacks not being able to play.
Oh, that would suck.
That would put a
know?
huge asterisk
What if
on the team.
what if it ends up being Chiefs versus Buccaneers in the Super Bowl this year, which is probably not going to happen. But and both of Tom Brady and Patrick Mahomes get coronavirus a week before. It's going to be the most boring Super Bowl ever.
Yeah, it'd be wild.
And one of the coolest to watch, or would have been one of the coolest to watch because you have old great and new great.
True.
Although the new great has shown that he's way better than
A lot better than the old great.
right now. So.
I'm not willing to recant any of my Brady love, so let's not go there this
All
week.
right,
Let's push that one
anyways,
back a few weeks.
Speaking of Brady, I think it's a good transition. I shared this stat with you guys a little while ago about Bruce Arians, because right now, if you're looking at Brady's season, he's thrown 11 interceptions, so he's on track for throwing possibly a career high. If he stays on this track, there's obviously struggles going on with their offense. They're up and down. Granted, I mean, Brady had a better second half of the game against the Chiefs, but he's still throwing interceptions at a higher rate than ever before. And so a lot of people are starting to be like, well, what's going on with Brady? Why is Brady struggling? But I happened upon this stat about Bruce Arians and his past with quarterbacks. And I think it's very interesting that there are 5 quarterbacks that he's worked with within his first year working with them, that they all have thrown career highs in interceptions in that first year with Bruce Arians. It was Peyton Manning, actually, because Bruce Arians was one of the offensive coordinators working with him. He threw a career high interceptions. Tim Couch, who was one of the Cleveland Browns quarterbacks in the 99, 2000, he threw a career high in interceptions. Ben Roethlisberger actually had a pretty decent year. I think he only threw like 11, so he's like the outlier. But then you had Carson Palmer. He threw a career high interceptions. Then you had Jameis Winston. He threw a career high as well. Now you have Brady doing that as well. So you start, and Andrew Luck. Andrew Luck was the other one. He threw a career high while under Bruce Arians.
So to
So
word that a different way, the 4 biggest quarterbacks in the AFC over the past 20 years have all worked for Bruce Arians, and all of them are thrown either the most and or double-digit interceptions in their first year.
Right. And so
Yeah,
I
there's a
saw
recurring
that,
theme there.
Dang.
and I'm like, and his offensive like philosophy is, if you don't risk it, you don't get the biscuit. So he's all about slinging the
hate that.
rock. And so one, I just want to punch him in the face just hearing that. Like it just enrages me. Like
I don't like
it's
the way he
like,
looks
really,
either.
dude? Yeah. And so my thing now is like, so is the blame really more on Arians then instead of Brady? Because if like you see a trend here when he works with the quarterback for the first time, their interceptions skyrocket. And so it got me thinking, is like, maybe it isn't so much Brady. Maybe that Arians in his offense, and maybe it's hard to learn, or it's risky, and he's asking his quarterbacks to take all these shots. I don't know. It really piqued my interest, though.
So let me say this: when I was watching the game Sunday night, Tony, I love Tony Romo as a commentator. Terrible
he's fantastic.
terrible
He is
quarterback.
really good.
Terrible quarterback. Great commentator.
Hot take right there. Was he a terrible quarterback? Anyways, go ahead.
So I love him as a commentator because he can get you deeper into the system of how they're playing. And a thing that he brought up on Sunday night, which really intrigued me, was a few of the plays when Brady looked incredibly comfortable throwing the ball with the play. Tony Romo made a point to say, this is an old New England special. And these were completed plays, completed passes that got good amount of yards. And Tony Romo goes, that's an old play from New England. And he even said it. He's like, maybe the trick here is to just bring New England to Tampa Bay. Bring that whole play style into this and let Tom Brady perform the way he's been performing for 20 years. Because I don't know if you know the old adage, but you can't teach an old dog new tricks. And it's kind of being proven right now under Bruce Arians with Tom Brady. So do we blame? I mean, the biggest thing, and the second I said, you know what? No, I don't trust Bruce Arians. I don't like him. I mean, I'm not a Bucs fan by any means, but I love Tom Brady. And the second I started to not like him was when he told Gronk he was only there to block. Okay, you have a top 5 tight end to ever exist on your team, and you're going to say, no, you are only here to block. Now, granted, Gronk is an incredible blocker. He's great at what he does. He is so good. But you know what he's pretty dang good at too? Catching
the ball.
Catching touchdown passes from Tom Brady. And you're going to bring him here and say, you know what, you're here to block? That was the second I was out on Bruce Arians. I said, nope, if you're not going to utilize talent, I'm all set.
Yeah, so I think it is definitely. I mean, you have a 43-year-old quarterback, and I do agree the old dog new trick, but not even that. Just like, why would you look at somebody who is a high accuracy guy who hits the easy money and does it better than anybody else in the league, arguably, and then try and have him throw low percentage passes? Like, I think that the deeper stat to look at, and I haven't done it, and I would love to be able to do it and figure out how many in his career, how do these guys, do they throw the most low percentage balls under Bruce Arians? Is that the thing? So are they throwing, outside the numbers, 20-yard bombs, which would be akin to no risk it, no biscuit, which is, I agree, so stupid to hear. When you have a guy underneath that can get you the first down, like just get the first down.
Right.
Yeah.
You have 4 more plays after that. Get the first down. Oh, you got 10 more yards.
Isn't their third down conversion lowest in the league right now?
It's one of, they were talking, I forget, it was another game, but they were talking about a team that actually they're like, oh yeah, I think it might have been the Eagles, that they have a higher third down conversion rate than the Buccaneers.
Oh yeah. They said that in the game Monday night, and I was like, oh wow.
And I was like, ooh, that's
not good.
That sucks. Because Carson Wentz blows. But Tom Brady's deep ball this year. Actually, the first 4 weeks, his stats are actually really good. And I don't know, maybe he's just old and his arm's getting tired. But since then, it's been deplorable. Like, he hasn't been able to connect on a deep ball. They've been inaccurate. But Bruce continues to draw up plays to go deep. It's like, dude, you don't have a quarterback that can hit those, right? You don't have a Pat Mahomes or a Russell Wilson who could throw the deep ball. Like,
Yeah.
but you got a guy who can hit the short and intermediate routes all day.
Yeah, and he can
But-
get that guy open in the slot down below.
Right.
Like he might only give you 7 yards, but those are 7 yards that nobody else can get you.
Well, 7
take
yards
it.
on first down is better than no yards.
Yeah,
on,
then you have a manageable
third
2 and
down.
3, and
Right.
maybe you have 3rd and 1. You just quarterback sneak or you
Especially
I
with a good
formation,
running
whatever.
back.
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So can we just agree then that Bruce Arians is a boob?
Yes.
Well, I think I think
Yes.
most people are going to agree that Bruce Arians is not doing very well. But I don't really think I'm willing to put the entirety of the blame on him.
No, you can't. I'm
No.
not saying Brady definitely his talent and skill right now definitely plays a part.
And
in
don't
it.
forget that
Yeah.
Brady was willing to go there. Brady was going there knowing who this guy is.
Yeah.
Like
And he
maybe didn't know
play well last year
exactly.
either.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, yeah.
But we'll get into more of that.
Yeah.
But real quick, just last coaching thing. Matt Patricia finally got fired, and the GM got fired as well after their shellacking Thanksgiving. I always think it's really awkward when they go to the press conference and the journalists are like, "So, do you think you're gonna still be here come Sunday?" And when they're asking that question, the coach knows the answer. He's
The
just,
answer's
like, on the
already there.
spot. The fact they're asking that question means yes, you're going to be canned. So it's very awkward. But he got fired. The GM got fired. And usually when this happens, you'll see the players who they'll try to in some way stand up for their coach. They'll be like, "Hey, no, I'm sad to see him go," or I don't think they really were fair to him. In this case, though, he got canned, and current players and former players were taking to social media and like praising it, like it's about like praise hands, stuff like that, like about like glad to see him go and stuff. And they
Ooh.
started saying that and liking the Detroit Lions post of firing him. Like,
So
Actually,
petty.
I didn't see any of that.
yeah, so you
Wow.
see that and you're like, oh wow, they hated him, and it's come out now they couldn't stand Matt Patricia. Because he was instituting this Patriot way. He was being very strict in how they ran things. He was trying to be Bill Belichick in Detroit, and it didn't seem to work. And so we've seen this now with him, with Charlie Weiss, Romeo Cornell, Bill O'Brien, Josh McDaniels when he tried head coaching.
Mhm.
They try to implement this Patriot way into a team, and it does not work. Vrabel is the one outlier right now, because he's having some success. So we'll see where that goes. But this seems to be so difficult. And why is that? Why don't we see that same success going to another team when it's
So I
trying to be implemented?
So with Vrabel, I think the difference is that Vrabel was a player. So he saw the Patriot way from a player perspective, but he also, I think, can see how to implement it. And I don't know, is he implementing the Patriot way? Do the Patriots line
know.
up on the 50-yard line of the Ravens and have a team meeting about how they're going to
No.
beat them up? No, of course not.
Right.
So I think Vrabel has been successful because he's probably got the right elements of Belichick and kind of that mindset of, how the Patriots did things, but also has got his
Right.
own, like, I was a player, so I have credibility. I know how you
Mhm.
feel about this. I do know that specifically with Matt Patricia, like, as much as it was the Patriot way, some of it was like he was just trying to get them to actually work and practice. Like there were articles coming out of Detroit when he first got there that like rather than practice in the heated like dome, he made them practice outside.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, is that really the Patriot way, or is this just a coach that wants you to practice in all the elements? Because I don't know if you know this or not, but you might have to go to a place where you play outside in the cold.
You might have to go to New England.
You might have to go to Buffalo
Or
Yeah.
Pittsburgh.
You might have to go to Green Bay. Like, you got to be able to be willing to practice in all of these elements. But I do think there is definitely something to people coming out of the Belichick tree that have not been successful. I think the only person you could say is Nick Saban has been successful, and he's definitely been successful. There's no question of that.
Yeah.
But a lot of people forget he was in the.
He was with the Dolphins, and he didn't really do too hot when he was in the NFL.
Yeah,
He,
but
he
I
did
know a
great
lot
in
of people
college.
want him to come back.
Can I add a little bit of a wrench into the mix?
What's
Do
that?
it.
Are the Patriots, or is Bill Belichick even doing the Patriots way right this year?
How about the past couple of years?
Sure, the past couple of years. Does the Patriots way even exist?
I think there are elements of it. I think, the not saying anything at the podium. Any player,
Right.
including Cam Newton, shows up. Did you guys see the when he got interviewed in the airport, and he's like, "I'm not supposed to say anything." Like,
Oh,
that's
really?
literally what he said. That's a
Oh.
Patriot way thing. And the practicing in all phases of the game and practicing for things and like being prepared. Like, those are all things. But maybe you're right. Like you know, uh, all the stupid catchphrases they've had over the years. Like,
Mhm.
some of that is dependent on what kind of players you have and their buy-in. And some
Right.
of that might just be because he's Bill Belichick and he had Tom Brady. It's different now.
That's kind of really
And
what
I
I
don't
was
think
gearing
anybody
towards.
I don't think anybody can impersonate Bill. And I don't think it's wise to. I think you have to have your own leadership style.
Yeah.
So Matt Patricia was trying to flatter Bill by impersonating him, and he sucked at his own job and lost it, rightly so.
Mhm.
Yeah. I think that's what it is they're trying to be Bill, and it's you can't be him. And it sounds like a Disney cliche, but it's like you gotta be yourself. Like, you know, I hate
Just be
saying that
yourself.
stuff,
It's like
Be
something a
yourself,
psychiatrist
kids.
says. Yeah.
but it's like you gotta lead with your own personality, and they're trying to be something that that they're not. So
Yeah.
Right.
I think that's why all those coaches are running into that problem.
Definitely. So, on the Patriots, I asked this question last week, and I wanted you guys to mull over it. But I wanted to ask a a Patriots big picture question, and that's this: as Patriots fans, should we lower our expectations for the team now that Brady is gone? And before you answer it, let me start here. If I were to say to you, if I were to say that the Patriots just went 3 out of 5. They won 3 out of their 5 games in November, including 3 out of the last 4. Knowing all that you know about the team's history overall this century, basically as long as we have been alive, what would be your first reaction?
So wait, so you're saying with this team right now?
No, I'm saying not right now. That'll come in a minute,
Okay.
but just the Patriots, everything you know about the Patriots since pretty much you've been alive. Patriots, the New England Patriots, the Bill Belichick coached, Robert Kraft owned in Foxborough, New England Patriots with their 6 rings, just won 3 out of 5 games in November, including 3 of their last 4. What is your first reaction?
I'd be like, all right, like it's business as usual. Here we go.
Okay,
Like they get better in December.
exactly right. Tyler,
Yeah.
what would you say?
That would be my same reaction.
Now, if I were to say this, if I were to say that the 2020 New England Patriots just went 3 out of 5 in November, including winning 3 out of their last 4, knowing all that you know about this team this year, forget everything that you knew before because Brady's gone. This team this year, what is your first reaction?
Nope.
Uh-oh.
Nope.
Y- y-
Do you want me to
yes.
answer why right now, or do you?
So I want to say this. I want to break this down first. So I thought this was interesting, and then I'm going to ask the question again. So here's where the problem lies. So I did a little stats polling, and I compared a couple teams, and you might be offended by who I compared the Patriots to, but that's okay. That's what I'm doing. It's for effect. So the November 2020 Patriots under Cam Newton, their record is 3-2, and this is just in November 2020 Patriots with Cam Newton as their quarterback. Their record is 3-2. Their points per game, 22.8. Their yards per game, 340.8. So, that's actually pretty good. Their
Total
quarterback,
yards, right?
yeah, total yards per game. Their their quarterback pass yards per game is 203. So they're averaging 140 yards from scrimmage running the ball. That's pretty good,
No,
actually.
they have a good run game this year. There's no doubt.
100%.
Mhm.
Their quarterback completion rate, 66%. Their quarterback rate or rating is 84.12% in those 5 games. And their quarterbacks, so just Cam Newton in this case,
So
has
when you say
thrown.
percent,
Go ahead.
So quarterback rating, are we
I
going
might have
by?
put that in a percent, but I don't know if it's supposed
Okay,
to
so
be
it's an
a percent or not.
84.12 then.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
out of
80.
158.3. All right, gotcha.
Yeah. So I just took the averages on Pro Football Reference. I
Yep.
took them all
No, I
and
gotcha.
added them together, divided by 5.
Gotcha.
So, and then the Cam Newton threw for 2 touchdowns, rushed for 3, versus 2 interceptions and 1 fumble. So he's gotten 5 scores and he's lost the ball 3 times. Okay, so I want you to stack those numbers up now against this team, and boy, this is gonna this is so horrible to say. The November 2020 Jets with Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold. So November 2020, New York Jets. Their starting quarterbacks are Joe Flacco, Sam Darnold. They've gone 0-4 plus the bye. Okay, so same number of games, same number of weeks, but one less game is how I should word that because that's important. Their points per game, 16.74. You are less than a touchdown better than the Jets on average per week offensively. Their yards per game, 188. Their
That is so bad.
That's terrible. Oh my
Like, can we just talk
gosh.
about that for like half a second?
That
Like,
is so bad.
your total yards game are 188. Like, what? I feel like you could trip and stumble and get more than
to get it 188. So
Oh my
what that means is they've
gosh.
had a couple really bad games because their quarterback average yards per game is 199, which is actually like 11 yards more. So their quarterbacks have had a couple really good games, but overall that hasn't compensated to make their yards better.
That's
Overall,
only
they
4 yards less than
than the
than
Patriots.
us.
Yeah.
Jeez.
So the Patriots have on average their quarterbacks have thrown for 4 yards. Cam Newton has thrown for 4 yards better than the combined efforts of Joe Flacco and Sam Darnold on the 0-11 now, 0-10, 0-11, 0-10.
11,
0-10.
0-11. They're 0-11 now.
Oh yeah.
Is it all okay? So 0-11 New York Jets. Quarterback completion rate for the New York Jets 59%, only 7% worse than you. Their quarterback rate 82.73%,
My goodness.
only 2% worse than you. And their quarterback, so the how many scores they have versus interceptions, 5 touchdowns thrown, 4 interceptions.
They've thrown
So
more touchdowns than Cam has.
they have thrown for more,
Yeah, but how
but
many-
their
yeah.
score is
Right,
overall the
right.
same.
How many has he rushed for?
So you are you are comparable offensively to the Jets. Now I compared one more because I thought this was interesting and I just want to look it up. So the last time that the Patriots did not have Tom Brady at the helm for the entire month of November was obviously 2008 with Matt Castle. So same number again. So November 2008 Patriots under Matt Castle. Their record was 2-3. Their points per game was 24.8. Their yards was 404 per game. So actually that was pretty good. Their quarterback passing yards per game was 284.4. So
That's
definitely
solid.
better. That's pretty solid, absolutely. Their quarterback completion rate, 63%. So about the same as it is under Cam Newton. Their quarterback rating, 84.56%, effectively the same.
Right.
And the quarterback's touchdown to interception and fumbles lost. So Matt Castle threw for 6 touchdowns, rushed for a 7th, and he had 4 interceptions and 3 fumbles lost in that same time frame. So here's the conclusion I came to. In November 2020, without Tom Brady, as the Pats offense is currently constituted, so just how it looks right now, the Pats have roughly the same offensive numbers as the Jets, who are not only the worst team in the NFL, but have also played for one less game than the Patriots. They've played for one less game in the month of November than the Jets. So if the Jets had played for 5 games, is it possible that the Jets offensively would have had better numbers than the Patriots?
Yeah, if they had well, I mean, we did go per game stats. So I mean, if they had one like really good game offensively, then yes, they could.
It's
have.
possible. It's also possible
Right.
that they completely pooped all over themselves and did the Jets thing. But just humor me. It's possible. The second
is
conclusion I
possible.
came to is the last time the Patriots offense went an entire month, the entire month of November without Tom Brady was in 2008 under Matt Castle, like I said. The team was more talented than it was in 2020, but the offensive numbers were roughly the same. Roughly. I mean, their yards were a little bit better, but as far as quarterback play, their scores were a little bit better, but their record was worse. So let me ask you the question again. Should we lower our expectations for the team now that Brady is gone?
Yes.
No.
I'm a big yup. The yes, 100%. And it doesn't. I don't see how it can't. So you're losing the greatest quarterback to play all time, and you are saying now you can't lower the expectations. If you okay, so the Cavaliers when they had LeBron James, before he left for the first time, he had them going to the playoffs. He had them going in the first seed in the playoffs, and then he leaves that team. You're telling me then that I'm not going to lower my expectations for what the Cavs are going to do? They lost the best player in the league.
Is that apples to oranges?
I
Though?
was just about to say that's apples to oranges, man. That's a 5.
No way.
That's
No way. You're
It's a
telling
different
me you
sport.
lose the greatest quarterback of all time, and you're going to plug in Cam, and then you're going to have the same expectations? Not a chance. As soon as Brady left, my expectations went out the window.
I'm sorry, but my expectations aren't what I expect out of the performance of the team. My expectations are the organization to get back to where they were with Brady. That's where I'm not lowering my expectation.
But realistically, you have to say they're not going to get there because you just lost.
Is it realistically to say that they're never going to get back?
We'll never see that level of success again. No, we may have a good season here, good season there.
I see what you're saying. That part, I agree with that part.
Yeah, we're not getting what we saw with Brady ever again.
So this is where I land. So
I disagree.
Go ahead, Tyler.
No, I just because I know I freaking hate talking about this guy, but I'm gonna. We're not too far into his career yet, but you have somebody like Patrick Mahomes comes into the league and is about to take his team into probably the next dynasty. And by your standard, what you're saying is nobody will ever achieve what the Patriots have achieved in the 20 years that they did it. And if the Chiefs do it, then that means it's possible for any organization. And I don't think it's impossible for the Patriots organization to do what they've done and get good talent. We're not even finished with the season yet.
But Tyler, what's the probability of the same team doing it twice?
It's low, but it's not impossible.
But now take the Chiefs and take Mahomes off that team. Does your expectations lower?
But I think we're missing.
Yeah.
I think you're here and I'm here, and we're not meeting because my expectation isn't if the team is going to perform well. My expectation is the organization going to get the team to where it's supposed to be and where I'm happy with them. My expectation
how long is that going to take?
It could. We're not even through 1 year without Brady, and we're ready to just throw the organization out. And I think I have more faith in Robert Kraft and Bill Belichick than that. Do I think we're going to have another Tom Brady out of the somebody coming the 199th pick of the NFL draft and coming and be the greatest quarterback of all time? Absolutely not. But do I think and do I have an expectation of the Patriots to bring people up into the system that are going to work well and be able to get us to a position of a dominant team in the AFC? Absolutely, that's my expectation.
Well, so I see it as, so you do have a different viewpoint of expectation. Mine is we expected with Brady that our team is going to the playoffs and will advance to like the AFC, at least the AFC championship game. That's an expectation that you have of what they're going to do.
Sure.
When he left, I don't have that expectation. I didn't have an expectation of them making the playoffs without him because I know that's probably not going to happen. So that's how I see.
And you're obviously taking into consideration the terrible season that we had last year and the zero talent that we have. Mm-hmm. But I can guarantee you, if we got a young, promising quarterback under center, and we have we get some good wide receivers, make some trades, do some draft picks, and people start performing, your expectations are going to go back up. I truly believe it.
So here's where I land. So I see the logic in both of you, and so I just wrote this out because I think this is where I probably am on this. So I said yes, but not greatly. And so what I think is they go from should be a top 4 team to they could be a top 4 team. And I realize that's a semantics game and it's the difference of one word, but let me explain that. So even after all I just said about 2008 and how their numbers without Brady they really weren't that much, worse in 2008 than they are now, or better, depending on which way you want to look at it. They still went 11-5 that year, didn't they? And they
Yeah.
missed the playoffs, but it was a technicality. It was like, the Jets, did the Jets make it in that year? I can't remember. I just remember they were. It was the Dolphins.
won the division. Yeah.
So it was, but they were an 11-5 team. When was the last time an 11-5 team missed the playoffs
Right.
completely? Like, that doesn't happen. So with Brady, they should be a top 4 team. With Brady and Belichick, they went to the AFC Championship game every year for a decade. And I often bragged when I was in Texas, like, the last time the Patriots weren't in the AFC Championship game, I was a senior in high school. And that was my standard. And that standard was, you are a top 4 team. There is no reason with Brady and Belichick that you should not be in that AFC Championship game. And, some years it was Tim Tebow's Denver Broncos traveling to New England to absolutely get plastered and blown out of town, and the Patriots go on to lose to the Giants in the Super Bowl, right? And they didn't really have that much talent that year, but because of Brady and Belichick, they were in that top 4 team. Now, some years the Patriots had to travel to Denver and face Peyton Manning's Denver Broncos, and those games were horrible. And I always hated having to travel there, and I still do. And as a fan, and they didn't win, but they should be in that game. That's how I felt every year. You should be in. You should have a bye. You should be in the divisional round and have some stupid team that doesn't know what they're doing, unless they're the Ravens, and then you should have an AFC Championship game. And so without Brady, I change it to could. So, and the reason why I change it to could and not just wipe it off the map is because of ownership, and that's where I agree with Tyler. Ownership has set the standard of competing on a championship level ever since they bought the team. Who are the 3 head coaches that the Crafts bought the team in, I think, 1993? Who are the 3 head coaches they've had?
Pete Carroll.
Pete Carroll, okay.
Bill Belichick.
Yep.
Bill Belichick, and who was the one? Was it Parcells?
Bill Parcells.
I was going to say Bill Parcells.
All 3 of them have rings. And the
Ooh.
point isn't the rings. The point is this, because Bill obviously and Pete Carroll got their rings after the Crafts hired him. And in Pete Carroll's case, they hired him. He went to the Super Bowl, lost, left the NFL, came back and won a ring. My point is that the Crafts has demonstrated the ability to accurately perceive the abilities of the head coach they hire. They've hired, Bill Parcells, who has 2 rings, I believe, with the Giants, and had an ability to develop a team, and he developed that team, and then he left because of some controversy, and there was the famous "I don't get to pick my own groceries" comment, and that whole thing. Pete Carroll came in. Pete Carroll took that team. He coached it up, brought it to a Super Bowl. They lost, obviously, to Brett Favre, and then he left, and Bill Belichick came in, and we know that history. But the point is that they have had the ability to identify talent at the head coaching position. And not only that, but they have hired head coaches that have an ability to to identify strengths and weaknesses of their team and be able to pick up players that can do that. They're not I hate these new head coaches that are like quarterback whisperers, and they don't amount to anything because they don't know how to coach all phases of the game.
Mhm.
All 3 of their head coaches can coach all 3 phases of the game, and that's not a small order in today's league. The other thing is that all 3 of these head coaches have been able to identify drafting quarterbacks. Who are the 3 quarterbacks that the Patriots have had that are designed? So throw Matt Castle out because that wasn't supposed to happen. Bledsoe, okay.
Brady.
Oh, and then if you count Cam, then now.
Okay,
Cam
so
Newton.
Cam might be a bust, but hear me out. Drew Bledsoe, 1992 Pac-10 Player of the Year and drafted number 1 overall by the Patriots. As a matter of fact, I looked him up. He was a junior when he was a top 10 player, or was when he was the Player of the Year. He opted out of his senior year to enter the draft and was drafted number 1 overall. Obviously, Tom Brady, we all know, his
Right.
accolades. And then Cam Newton, who's a Heisman Trophy winner, an MVP winner, appeared in a Super Bowl. And wasn't he first overall too?
He was
picked?
yeah.
So okay, so
or him or Luck. Shoot.
So
They
call him
went
top
1-2.
2.
It was, I forget which one. What?
So the Patriots in their tenure, since Robert Kraft bought the team, have had 3 quarterbacks. 2 are MVPs. 2 were picked in the first 2 picks of the draft. All 3 of them have appeared in Super Bowls, and 2 out of the 3 have Super Bowls. So all 3 of their head coaches have rings, and all 3 of their design quarterbacks have at least appeared in Super Bowls. The Crafts want to win championships. That's the standard they've communicated. And while there might be rebuild years as they flip the roster, and obviously without Brady here, we're going to notice those rebuild years a little bit more because there's just going to be no talent at the quarterbacking position,
Right.
and it might not be a 10-6 year where they get they lose because they just didn't have enough to get to the Super Bowl. Now it might be they get to the wild card on a technicality and lose kind of thing. There's going to be those kind of years, but as long as the Crafts own the team, the Patriots could be a top 4 team, which statistically means they have a chance to win it all. That's what I think.
Do you think they could be a top 4 team next year?
So that's a good question. That's a really great question I didn't think of. So I've heard the argument made that even though Cam Newton has been abysmal, what did he throw? 80-something yards this last week? Like
88 yards.
Which was terrible.
It's 9 of 18, 88 yards, 0 touchdowns, 2 interceptions.
So say they move on from Cam and they get, I don't know, pick some bum off the street that's no longer Alex Smith or what if Philip Rivers is a
Smith?
Because I like
Alex. Dude breaks his leg, almost dies, comes back.
My point is he's going to be available next year, and I want him. That's what my point is. I would even take Philip Rivers as much as I can't stand that guy.
I would take Philip Rivers easy.
So you put somebody in that can play the quarterbacking position and is a pocket passer, and then you draft some people around him. Do you think they could be a top 4 team next year with a serviceable quarterback?
I think
Bill Belichick and some draft picks.
If you got Philip Rivers, I think you have a chance. Like they could be.
I would have to recant everything I ever have thought about Philip Rivers if they did that.
I think he'd be way
just
better
last
than
week
Cam
you
Newton.
said I've never taken his name seriously.
I can't take his name seriously, but if he comes to the Patriots, I'll have to do a 180. Like I'll have to shamelessly.
Let me say this to that point of will they be a contender next year? Have our wide receivers proved that there is a little bit of talent on the field?
No.
Not even a little bit?
Myers has shown
not enough.
Bird had that one big game. Nothing consistent, though.
Okay, but
Correct.
Who's throwing to them?
Cam.
Okay, so my thinking here is you have Jacoby Myers, who he had a couple of pretty good games. He's proven he can get open. Please cut N'Keal Harry. Get him off the team.
I agree. No,
he is terrible.
I'm on board with that.
He's he was a huge bust. I can't believe we took him over DK Metcalf.
Oh my gosh!
Wow, what a bad move. Anyways, get N'Keal Harry out of there. Damiere Byrd has proven he can get open. Okay, Damian Harris has proven to be
He's the best part of the offense.
A great
in my opinion.
Running back. Get rid of Sony Michel. Keep White and
White's almost cash. But
yeah, you need him. Yeah, Sony can go. Bye-bye.
See you, Sony.
Bye, Sony.
And get us a quarterback that can throw the ball. I do not care in the Patriots and Bill Belichick system for a quarterback that can run. I don't care for it. If you can't hand it off to your running back on the 1-yard line versus the Seattle Seahawks, then that wasn't Bill Belichick football, in my opinion. Anyways, if you get somebody behind under center that can throw the ball, I honestly believe with the talent that we have as it stands right now, get a good tight end, maybe draft a tight end, maybe trade for a tight end, we will have a contending team next year.
So you need a quarterback, several wide receivers, and a tight end. That is a big ask for next year.
Hold on. I didn't say several.
Also their defense. So we just need one wide receiver. So all the defense has to do is double team them.
Huh? What do you mean?
So we need several wide receivers. Several. I don't think we just need one. I think we need at least 2 that could actually play.
2 is a couple, not several, Eric.
Okay, fine. So whoop-de-doo, 3, 4, whatever.
I just feel like you're making it seem like it's way more to ask than what we have.
I don't.
But that's not.
I'm just trying to.
I don't think that. I really don't think that. Yeah, I don't think that that's that hard to do. Get a good blocking and maybe receiving tight end. A couple of young wide receivers that aren't N'Keal Harry, and a good quarterback behind under center, and I think we'll be a contending team. I really do. Maybe that's my blind patriotism. Not for my country.
Yeah, I was gonna say
my team.
It's like, for America.
No, don't mistake that.
Yeah, this isn't a politics podcast. We won't go there.
All right, right. On to the NBA before we get
Yes.
political.
Oh,
Yeah, so the NBA, we're in December now, which literally happening this month, which
Let's
is crazy
go.
to me. Training camp actually starts, I believe. Oh no, the first preseason game I think starts the 11th. So
Dang.
the teams are starting to get prepared for that. But what's crazy is the teams who are in the finals, the Lakers and the Heat, they had a 71-day off season, which is the shortest off season of any sport ever for there to be. But the teams that didn't go to the bubble, like because there were 8 teams that the record sucked so bad they didn't even get invited. Their off season is over 290 days.
Dang.
Quite
Wow.
a big, yeah, because they haven't played since March.
Oh,
and then
wow.
Until December, yeah, like so, like the Warriors and stuff like that, they haven't played since March.
So in basketball, how much? So, and I'm not asking because I think basketball's unathletic or anything like that. I'm just asking because how does it stack up? Like, I obviously know in like hockey, sometimes having too much time off during the season is really bad, but they really need that off season because almost all of them have to have like sports hernia surgeries and knee stuff
Yeah, it's a
because it's just so
recovery time.
physical.
Right.
Yeah. So how does that stack up to like basketball? Is a 71-day off season like? Is that really like almost dangerous for these players as far as recovery time goes, or just because of the nature of the sport, can they survive on 71 days?
So I think we actually saw this past summer. I think the break in between before we started the bubble actually helped like the Lakers out big time, especially with LeBron. He's older, he's 35. That gave him he got like 3 months of rest. And then he
Yeah.
came back in the playoffs and I mean they took off. So I think it helps the older guys. The younger guys, they're in shape, like they'll be fine. One thing though that a lot of players have had opinions about this quick turnaround, especially the ones that went deep in the playoffs, because they're kind of concerned about that. Like they're like, dude, like our bodies are beat up. We just went through the ringer in the bubble. We're hurting. We need this time to heal up, and we're not getting it. And a lot of doctors, they've been asking doctors as well their opinions, and there are concerns about that, about such a quick turnaround for some of these teams.
Yeah.
So I've seen a lot of like LeBron's not happy about this. Anthony Davis isn't happy about it.
Mhm.
Well, especially a lot of the older guys, they're having tons of issues with going back, and I don't know if it's a result of them being spoiled athletes, or do they actually have a
Yeah.
legitimate case? Because at the end of the day, it's like you are getting paid millions of dollars. So I mean,
Right.
get out there.
Not
But,
only
I mean,
that, but you're under contract and this is your job.
right. Because there's talk that Danny Green was on a podcast and he was saying that like the big stars like LeBron and already Kawhi Leonard has these load management days or
Mhm.
whatever. But saying that these star players might take the whole first month of the season off and just not play. And it's like, what?
You know what's annoying about that
Well,
is
teams
like
can
Kawhi
afford it
Leonard
though.
and LeBron James could take a month off and they could still win the championship
Yeah.
because
Yeah,
that's
'cause
just the nature of the sport.
Yeah, because they got the studs
Yeah.
and stuff. But for me, it's like part of me understands like LeBron's been in the league forever. He kills himself during the season. He probably does want and need that time off. So I get that. But at the same time, I'm also like, it is your job though,
Yeah.
and you still get 71 days off.
There are
That's better
certain
than most any
sports.
career.
So do you
There are
think that
certain sports that have like personality issues, and basketball and baseball are those two.
Yeah.
Like, it's more about it's not that they. I'm not saying they're going to exaggerate their physical strengths because obviously, or the strenuousness of the season because obviously it is physically demanding, but they definitely sell it in a way that they really need as long as possible, and if they don't get their way, they're just not going to play, which is just that's why baseball and basketball are kind of irritating.
So
Yeah,
do you think that these players in the NBA would be able to perform at the level that they do without the training and without the medical stuff that they do and the weird rich guys like training stuff that they do? Do you think that do you think that LeBron's still going to perform if he can't go in some hyperbolic chamber and ice down his knees or whatever he does? I don't know what he does, but
well, the science for those chambers is iffy, anyways. But I know LeBron has said he spends like over $1 million a year on his body, like all year round, taking care of it. I mean, that helps. I mean, none of us will ever be able to experience that because we don't have $1 million.
Or
But I
that kind
can
of
guarantee,
body.
right? But well, if we had the money, we could get that. You know what I'm saying? So it's like it helps to have that, and I mean, I 100% believe that all that he does helps him perform on the court, and more importantly, keep him from being injured and heal quickly from injuries. So I do think I mean, the rest for these athletes is important. It's tough for us to understand. And this is a concept because we don't move at the speeds and play with the power that these athletes do.
Right.
So like when I play basketball, like there's what I experience, which is fatigue, but I'm playing against guys who are typically my size anyways. And I'm not moving, I don't need to move as crazy explosive as like a LeBron James. So when I'm tired, when I play a game and I'm tired, I'm like, man, that was tough. I'm not expending nearly the energy or the power output that these
Sure.
NBA players are.
Sure.
They're Ferraris being
Right.
floored like to the and so
Yeah.
that's torque and power and bruising that they're taking that I'm not. I don't know what that's like. And so they're going to need that time to recover because they're doing this 4 nights a week, which is absolutely insane. But it's like you are getting paid millions. This is your job.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where it's like there's tension in me because I get both sides, but I'm like, you are getting paid millions of dollars.
So do you think it's selfish if these couple of these star players take the first month off and have a longer off season? Do you think it's selfish, and do you think that their team should welcome them back?
Yes, because if they get a championship as a result, who cares?
So you think that it's okay?
And that's where it's like, because if the rest actually helps them to win a championship, then it's like, well, is that selfish?
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, if there's buy-in by the players that you're playing with.
That's a good point, Tyler. That's a good point.
I wouldn't call them selfish if they're a team that can compete. If somebody I don't know who's one of the worst teams in the NBA.
Well, I mean, you could pick the Hawks. Just say the Hawks. They're horrible.
How about Lorenzo Ball takes a month off with the Pelicans because he needs rest?
Did you say Lorenzo?
Lorenzo.
How do you say it?
Lonzo? You added a syllable.
I did. Can't wait to get roasted for that.
No, it's okay.
People get this far.
At least we didn't.
Eric said something wrong.
At least, but I think that they'll calm down because we corrected you. Anyways, yeah, like exactly. Like let's say some guy on the team who's not very good. I won't name any names, but who's not very good is like, you know what? This is my body, and I can't peak perform if I don't have enough days off. Yes, I think that's selfish, and I think you're an idiot.
But if you're somebody, not that good, dude,
right? But if somebody like,
so what you're admitting is there a double standard in the NBA?
Oh, 100%.
Yes, it's the NBA. But if like LeBron needed a month off and Lakers go on to win again, who cares? Take 2 months off.
You boo.
They could lose their first however many games in the first month. That they could lose all those games and still LeBron comes back. They're just going to compete better than everybody else.
There you go.
All right, tell us about the Celtics.
I was going to say, last take on the NBA, we just talked about some Celtic stuff that went down this last week. We had our Fire Danny campaign.
Which I was totally neutral on. Don't roast me.
That's true.
It's still on. I'm still on it.
But Danny did some good this past week because initially it looked like Gordon Hayward walked out the door without us getting anything, and it was kind of like, well, what the crap, dude? Like we just lost a guy and got nothing in return, but he salvaged something, and he was able to make some deals with the Hornets, and he was able to clear $28.5 million in cap space. Which is awesome. So we can use that this year, or we can roll it over into free agency next year because we have it for a year before it expires. If they use it this year, they've already signed Thompson and Jeff Teague. So because of that, the hard cap is now 21.8. So if they wanted to use it this year, they could only use up to 21.8 million, which is awesome. Or they could wait till next year and use the full 28.5. So does this, for first question, does this kind of change our opinion a little bit or no?
I'll answer first because it's quick and easy. No, because I didn't have an opinion in the first place.
There you go.
I say no because I have nothing to base this on. What if the owner of the Celtics had the same thoughts that we did And I'm not saying that we were ahead of the ball or anything like that, but what if he said, you had your chance this past year and you did, you underperformed. How many more
Yeah.
years am I going to give you grace for this? So you better get something together and you better go get somebody and you better get these fans and get me a championship because that's what we want. So
I feel
I
that.
just say all they say this. What if Danny Ainge is under the gun because he knows his job's on the line?
Oh, and he felt because this kind of honestly felt like it was a last ditch effort. He's like, "Oh crap, I have to do something."
That's what I thought too. I know nothing about
Well, yeah,
basketball.
it definitely goes
but-
one of two ways. It was either a really good move on, a really good job, or I need to do something quick before I get canned.
Exactly.
Yeah. No, that's what it seemed like he was doing. He's like, crap, like I have to get something for Hayward. So I think it's at least good that he did something because this will help, but I don't think it changes my overall opinion of him.
What if
And
he
then
gets Giannis next year?
So that's what I want to talk about
Ooh.
is so like what can he do with this money now, because this isn't like just he doesn't just have 28.5 million that he can do whatever he wants with. It's an exception, so there are some rules with what he can do with this money. He can't add it to another salary to get like a super max contract. Like he has to find a player within that range. If it's this year, it's 21.8, or he can wait next year and use the full 28.5. So this year, honestly, I would just save it so we could get the full deal for next year. But
Yeah.
there are
I'd
some
agree.
potential long shots, and Giannis would fall under this. We people who would be available are Giannis, Luca.
Give me Luca.
Oh my goodness! Like
Give me
I would give
Luka.
the entire team up for Luca and just have him play. Like I love
Me
Luca.
too.
Brandon Ingram, Donovan Mitchell, Bam from the Heat, Trey Young, and Rudy Gobert. Now these are long shots. Like they'd have to do some other wheeling and dealing and to absorb their contracts, but financially it would be possible. And of those, Rudy Gobert would be the most likely because he's got an icy relationship with some of his other players in Utah, and he'd be more willing to leave. And for us, he's a big man, like one of the best defensive players in the NBA, great rebounder, and he can get you 15 points, 16 points a game. And he'd be the most likely. I think
That's our
dream
biggest
scenario-
need too, isn't it?
we're not getting Giannis. I don't think we will.
What
Or
if we
Luka
did?
I'm
or
okay with
anything.
that.
If we could get Giannis,
I've heard some stories on the radio so far that Giannis and
there's potential. I
Jason
mean, it's
Tatum are
possible.
friends, and there's a favorable like community of Greek people in Boston. Like I mean, total green teamer stuff. But like, what if?
So it is financially possible. We could. I mean, if we got him, oh my goodness, that'd be fantastic.
Would
I don't
that
know.
be? Would that fit the standard we talked last year of a proven MVP plus a young and coming guy that could be an MVP playing together? And could they go up against the Lakers and win out?
So wait, hold on. We have the money, right, for Giannis, but who would we have to give up for him?
That's what it would be. Like that's why these guys would be a little more of a long shot. Like because even to get Rudy Gobert, we'd probably have to. We could give the money towards there. We'd probably have to give up like a Thompson and someone else and draft picks to get him. So for Giannis, we're gonna have to give up. We'd have to give up more.
Honestly?
in
Honestly,
order
I
to get
think
him.
the first three of these guys, Giannis, Luka, and Ingram, I think Jaylen Brown's gonna go for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anybody
gotta
but
be-
I'm
Tatum.
fine.
I
I'm
think-
fine with
which
shipping.
obviously-
I think
Brown.
he's the constant in every single one of those deals. He is the one that's gonna have to go.
Yeah, because
But let
I
me
think
tell
if
you-
you compare Giannis with a Jason Tatum and have a guy who can run point, like if you keep a Kemba Walker or Drew Holiday, as I'll mention really quickly, bro, you got like two all-stars for sure, and then a guy who's like a borderline all-star
Right.
playing. So I don't know. I would love to see. What were you gonna say, Tyler?
I forget. Go ahead.
And then, so those are the long shots. I would love to see that. The more likely is a Victor Oladipo, DeMar DeRozan, Buddy Hield, or Drew Holiday. Oladipo, I think, would be awesome. He's more of a shooting guard kind of a player. I think you could pair what I honestly like. I know
He's-
people love Marcus Smart.
Is he
What's
coming
that?
off a hurt season? Victor Oladipo?
The season before, so he
Oh.
came back this season, and then so he'd be back full strength this season.
Man,
but
that guy's
know
got
lo-
pipes. He can sing.
he can sing. He's great.
He's
Oh,
so
R&B singer.
I
good.
have
He was on
heard
the Masked
that.
Singer, dude. Oh my
Yeah,
goodness,
so-
dude, that guy had pipes.
That's the
I'd
second
be
week in a
good
row
with
you've
him
mentioned The
going.
Masked Singer. By
Sorry,
the way,
my wife and I are obsessed with that show. So it started off as us being like, look how stupid this show is. Let's watch it. And
Yeah.
4 seasons in, and we're like, this is great. Anyways, go ahead. Sorry.
No, that's fine. But Oladipo and Drew Holiday are the ones that intrigue me, because I know Boston fans they love Marcus Smart. They think he's like the best thing. And I will say he's great hustle player, plays a lot of pride, and I love that. Great defensive player, but his offense makes me go freaking nuts. Especially he thinks he's Steph Curry sometimes, and he just jacks up threes, and I'm just like, dear
man,
God,
I've
you don't
seen
need to shoot 12 threes.
Oh
like,
man,
none
just
of them
this
are
past
going in.
playoffs, I saw him a couple of bricks.
And
from
he
him,
makes
and I was
some
like, "Ooh."
boneheaded mistakes offensively, whereas Oladipo is a phenomenal defender as well, much better scorer. I mean, he was an all-star.
Mhm.
And then same with like Drew Holiday. You look at like Drew Holiday's numbers. I think the guy can score. He averages more points, more assists than Smart has. Like all of those numbers are higher than him, and he shoots a better 3-point percentage. And he still was on a 2-time All-Defensive second team, so he plays great defense too. Like these guys are a little more. They're a little cheaper. I think they're more likely that we could get one of those two guys. I would love to see that. We could get them, wouldn't have to give up as much. We could just let Smart go because
Mhm.
I'd be fine with it. I think that's an upgrade. And I think that gives you that if we keep Kemba, we have an all-star point guard. We'd have an all-star shooting guard, like say if we got Oladipo, and then we'd have Jason Tatum as well, who's an
Yeah.
all-star player and possibly an MVP player. I don't know. I think that would be we'd have a ton of talent just coming like that we could roll with.
Yeah.
So I don't
I
know.
like
would
it.
love
Those
to
are
see
like the
that.
dream.
honestly every single one of the names in the list. I would be really. I mean, there's some of the guys I actually have no. I don't follow basketball a whole lot. Some of the guys I don't really know, and haven't seen play. But almost all the guys on the list that I know, I would actually be pretty happy with coming to the Celtics.
they're all names I recognize, and Aaron, your excitement about it makes me think that
Yeah.
if they come, I like the dream. I like the dreaming we're doing, and that it's
just-
not really a dream, like it could actually happen.
But Ainge could mess it up. So you know.
Well, on that note, hashtag fire Danny.
Yeah. Oh man. So yeah, that's what I have for the NBA this week. I think, man, time flies, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Time
We're
flies
already,
when you're talking
we're already up.
sports.
Oh,
Boys,
man.
I really needed this, and like I said, had a rough day today. So, this was fun, and it's been fun every week.
Yes, it has.
Aaron,
Yes.
where can they find us if they want to see more content, or maybe even drop us an email or something like that?
Yes, yeah, that's exciting. So we do have an email set up so that if you guys want to, well, don't send mean things, please.
Oh no, go
Uh,
ahead. We
Yeah,
need a
send
good
us
laugh.
mean things. Just don't comment on our stuff and say mean things.
Yeah, nothing happened last week that's still on our minds or anything. But we do have an email. It's under and then decimal point 500podcast@gmail.com. Send your love or your hate. I'm sure we'd love to see that, or any comments, things you'd like to hear us talk about, and maybe we can work that into an episode.
I want some fire Danny hate. That's what I want.
Mm.
So really, what you're hearing is that Eric wants validation for his opinions. He's very
No, I want
sensitive.
people. No, I want people to contradict me so that I can use it as an opportunity and save it later for when Danny does get fired. But anyways,
All right, and
so
you
I
can-
guess that is validation.
Vindication.
yeah, that's all he wants. He's a sensitive soul. But we're also, if you our podcast on Spotify or on Apple, we also have a YouTube channel for our video recordings. Please hit those up. Subscribe on the Apple Podcast. If you can drop us a review, that helps us out big time. So we'd appreciate that. And then you can follow our Instagram at Under 500 Podcast as well. We have a Facebook page called Under 500. Look us up, and then we drop content there throughout the week that you can engage on, leave your comments on. And we also want to thank you guys because we have a lot more people listening than we ever thought we would at this point.
True.
Yeah.
And that's all. We do this first and foremost for us because we love doing this and we're great friends. But secondly, we do this for you guys to hope that we can put a smile on your face as you're driving to work and hopefully make you laugh once in a while and feel better about your lives when you hear about ours. So
That's good.
But seriously, thank you guys for listening. Share this, let your friends know about it, your families, so we can keep growing and bring you more awesome stuff.
All righty. Well, on that note, y'all have a great rest of your week, and we'll talk soon.
All right.
Awesome.
See you,
Peace out,
everyone.
everyone.